Hi, I'm George, Fat Ninja Farm. Just want to talk about the abundance. We can see the abundance here with plants that we're used to. All these greens and the strawberries and the young cucumbers and the peas and the arugulas and on and on. These are all plants that we know, and we can see how thick this annual garden is planted. When we step over into the forest side of this, it all of a sudden becomes what people explain as a wall of green. And that wall of green changes, you get to know the plants within it and pulls you into to know the individual plants. But let's go have a look inside of there just to show how thickly that is planted, just like this is, but with perennials, mimicking a forest, done in layers, and everything having a role in that system. There's 7 layers to a food forest. So we're planting in a 3-dimensional view, using every niche that we can, every area that we can. Let's go have a look in there. So we were standing in the annual garden over there, looking at this, and this is becoming the food forest side. So looking at it, it's kind of just really thick and dense green. As you see, I'm even standing here under a mulberry tree. This has got a lot of mulberries, but in the understory I have yellow raspberries, currants, josta berries, red raspberries, strawberries, chocolate mint, a Nanking cherry that's going to grow up and be a bush cherry in front of that. Now we'll step down into the forest. So we're just standing under that mulberry tree looking this way. And as we get here, we've got, in this thickness, there's gooseberries. Incredible amount on our oldest gooseberry bush there. Apples all over this apple tree. Elderberries. Figs. Nanking cherries on the other side of it. Hazelnuts. A bush-style hazelnut. More figs. These are gummy-berry. Another apple up over there. And you can just see how thick we are in here, where everywhere I reach, I'm able to touch food, and it's grown in this thickness. My job is to pretty much to manage it, to hold it back at this point. But this is done by mimicking nature, mimicking the edge of a forest. If we look at the edge of a forest, in the spring it turns green down low, and it blooms right up to that upper canopy, blooms out, and it dies back in the fall. And I always like to say that we don't do anything to do with it. We don't have nothing to do with that. We don't plant those trees. We don't water those trees. We don't put fresh starts in there. We don't fertilize them. But every year that forest does that without us. So by mimicking that in our yards, but using plants that produce food for us, food for the animals in here doing their jobs, and a synchronistic relationship, a symbiotic relationship that they have, it takes over on its own, and we're just here to manage it. By manage it, I mean harvesting this abundant amount of berries here. We'll look at the strawberries as well. Right now, these are the first ones of the year. But I also have to cut this back. This is a nitrogen-fixing bush, an Elaeagnus. So that's feeding the plants around it as it stores nitrogen from the air and the soil around it in its root system, in a symbiotic relationship with the bacteria that stores that nitrogen for it. The forest, nature understands this much better than we do. We just need to mimic it in our yards. This is another silverberry. This is a winterberry. Doing the same thing as that. I've already pruned this back really hard last year, trying to feed the things around it. But it'll do the same thing, but succession in our food forest. The forest has succession within it, so something's always flowering and fruiting for the animals within it. So the same thing for us. That's given us berries already. This was the first berry of the year. It's actually the last plant to flower, and it gives us berries at the start of the next year. Then that's the second one as far as the nitrogen fixers. And then the autumn olive, all Elaeagnus, all fixing nitrogen, all calling in beneficial insects, all calling in the pollinators, all smelling wonderful, all producing a tasty fruit for us. So I think I'll stop there. You can see just how thick it is. We started up in the annual garden over here, and now we're walking around and through this, And just everywhere there's food. There's blackberries here. There's sochi and edible green behind it. There's lilies in there. There's perennial leeks. There's horseradish. There's gooseberries, jostaberries, autumn olives, hazelnuts, more of the same throughout here. Wineberries, trying to see what else is different. And then we come out into the bottom of the annual garden here. Grapes, hardy kiwis. Okay, I think I'm starting to ramble on now, but I hope that makes sense. How we're mimicking forests in our yards. We've done this by using permaculture principles to plant in a designed way a food forest, mimicking a natural forest. We're replacing those plants that have a role in the symbiotic relationship with the ones that also do that, produce things that we like. Hope that made sense. All right, I'm George. This is Fat Ninja Farm, if you're not familiar. We're trying to share what we're doing here. This is it was a lawn 8 years ago now. You can see it's kind of even hard to imagine that it was lawn in that recent of time. With just the abundance that's all around us, so we're trying to share this. So please like, share, and subscribe, and share these videos as well. Peace.